$1.7 million of fentanyl. Bill, incredible.
Yeah, we're talking to some real heroes this morning. This is amazing.
Dude, these guys, they'll never show it, but yeah. I can tell they have like the superhero right underneath the shirt. Really cool. It's just like just about they rip it off and they jump into action and save American lives.
Yeah,
that's
amazing.
the Drug Enforcement Administration. We're going to be joined by David Oleski, Special Agent in Charge for the Rocky Mountain Field Division. This is the head honcho. And you probably saw the news. 1.7 million counterfeit fentanyl pills. Bro, this was crazy. It was found in a storage unit because they popped the guy. He stopped making payments, and then it went to storage wars. This is like storage wars on steroids, literally. We're going to hear the story, the details behind the headlines you got yesterday as we talk with David Oleski. Not going to want to miss this conversation. Now is time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good morning. It is Tuesday, 40 and mostly cloudy in Denver. Beautiful morning, though. Expecting a high of 61 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story.
It's been on the survivor's shoulders this entire time. The burden, the weight, the threats, the shame. It's our turn to take this load from them. We're looking to our elected officials to do the same.
That's Amanda Roberts from El Paso County. She'll be asking and has asked Jeff Crank for that. A vote on a measure that would require the DOJ to release all Epstein files is scheduled for today in the House. 47 has encouraged House Republicans to support the measure. Amanda and Sky Roberts from Colorado are in D.C. pushing for the measure. Sky's late sister, Virginia Giuffre, was one of Epstein's victims.
The loss that she's not here to see this moment. It's her advocacy, her bravery, her courage that really brought this story to the forefront.
We won't stop. We genuinely will not stop until we get some sort of justice.
Giuffre allegedly died by suicide in April. The DEA's Rocky Mountain Field Division said it made the largest seizure of counterfeit pills in state history and the sixth largest single seizure of suspected fentanyl pills in U.S. history. 1.7 million counterfeit fentanyl pills found in a storage facility in Highlands Ranch. The DEA's David Oleski.
It is also indicative that the Mexican cartels continue to traffic significant quantities of fentanyl to Colorado.
The drugs discovered by a man who successfully bid on the storage unit only to find the drugs inside. The registered owner of the storage unit was already in custody as part of an ongoing DEA and CBI case. Douglas County Sheriff Darren Weekly.
To be clear, this reporting party undoubtedly saved countless lives, not only in Douglas County, but throughout Colorado and likely throughout our nation.
The UN Security Council is supporting DJT's peace plan for Gaza. The plan calls for the creation of an international stabilization force and a transitional authority overseen by 47 after the devastating war with Israel. Russia and China abstained from the vote Monday. Hamas also rejected the plan, arguing it falls short of meeting the needs of Palestinians. X is among a number of popular apps and websites facing issues this morning thanks to a mass outage at the web services provider Cloudflare. Cloudflare powers those sites and apps. down detector has been receiving thousands of reports overnight about problems. Cloudflare says it is aware and investigating an issue which impacts multiple customers. The Trump administration is fighting back against California's No Secret Police or No Vigilantes Acts. The White House says it will not comply with the state's new laws banning federal agents from wearing masks while on duty. They love when you wear masks when they're not trying to protect people, and has filed a lawsuit challenging the laws. The lawsuit filed Monday claims California is unfairly targeting the federal government and could endanger immigration agents. Absolutely. The Tennessee court has ruled that the National Guard's deployment in Memphis as part of the Memphis Safe Task Force was unlawful. Oh, of course they're saying that. A temporary injunction requested by Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris was granted over claims that the criminal activity targeted by the task force did not qualify as grave emergency or disaster, right? It's only one of the most dangerous cities in America, and they cleaned it up, and it's safer for innocent victims and innocent people in the city. The federal government has 5 days to appeal. DIA and airports nationwide are operating normally again after the FAA lifted the Schumer shutdown related flight restrictions over the weekend. Roughly 6.7 million flyers expected to travel over the next 2 weeks. Nuggets fall to the Bulls last night at home 130 to 127, but in the loss, Nikola Jokic another triple-double, 36, 18, and 13. Wow. Unbelievable. 37 in Castle Pines, 38 in Louisville, and 40 in Denver. You're waking up with Jeff and Bill on a Tuesday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your 710 5-day forecast. Fair skies starting off Tuesday. Morning temps in the mid-30s with highs Tuesday afternoon, lower 60s under sunny skies. Much less wind, more sun, keeping it dry through midweek with Tuesday night's lows in the low to mid-30s. Wednesday, sunny, lower 60s once again. Thursday, clouds pick up with some showers late day. Thursday night and a Friday, rain showers with a little light snow near the foothills. Friday's highs upper 40s. Meteorologist Don Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Big historic announcement yesterday from the Drug Enforcement Administration. A record 1.7 million counterfeit fentanyl pills seized in Colorado, the sixth largest U.S. pill seizure in American history. This was wild yesterday. Got a chance to be in the room to watch this, in part because of our former colleague here, Stephen Tubbs, who joins us now in studio along with David Oleski, special agent in charge for DEA's Rocky Mountain Field Division. That means he's the chief DEA superhero here in Colorado. Guys, big day yesterday.
Yeah, congratulations.
It was amazing.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah. And Stefan's back in studio here.
This is where I met Dave, by the way.
Right here.
Mr.
That's what you were
Oleski.
saying.
Right here when I was doing my show. We were talking fentanyl 5 years ago-ish.
About 5 years.
4 or 5 years ago.
So maybe we'll get Jeff or Bill on as an agent here, and then we'll do some
Jeff,
recruiting here.
I looked at being an
for you.
agent
Yeah.
because Stefan was kind enough to let me do the Citizens Academy, which means I got to drive around. That's just ugh. Just shows the wrong career field because I'm too old at this point.
Unfortunately, you're too old. Bill, you're too old too.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, no.
But hey, you listening, visit DEA.gov.
That's right.
We're
a
hiring.
big recruiting event right now, so absolutely.
All right, so let's talk details of yesterday and what the announcement you guys made. So, David, turn it over. What did you guys announce?
No, it's a great story, and obviously it's a made-for-TV, made-for-radio story of storage wars combined with record-breaking seizure of fentanyl. And I know we've been on here many times in the past talking about how deadly fentanyl is, number one killer of Americans 18 to 45, all the stories. And I mean, yes, the 1.7 million pills is what grabs the headlines. And to start the story, it does go all the way back, probably more than a year in terms of investigative work. But at the core of it, last week, I'm sitting in the office, middle of the week, and hear from my agents that they had gotten a call from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. And what had happened was a storage locker in Douglas County had gone to auction. Someone had bid on it and won it. And I think it was Tuesday of last week, they go to the storage locker to open it up. And I was saying they think they're going to get some valuable sports memorabilia, some antiques or something valuable. And they certainly found the jackpot, but it was something a narc agent certainly or detective would dream of getting. And open it up, and there's these tubs and tubs of drugs and pills in there, and they immediately did the right thing. And that's what the core of this is in terms of the credit, the recognition goes to the citizen who won the bid and called the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. And Jeff, you saw the body camera footage yesterday and the natural reaction of the deputies when they showed up on the scene and saw these tubs of counterfeit fentanyl pills. And so 1.7 million fentanyl pills, largest ever in the state, sixth in the nation. To say it's a ridiculous quantity. 5 years ago, like we said, when I met Stefan and was coming here into Colorado, if we seized the equivalent of just like a Tylenol, like an aspirin bottle of 200 pills, that was a significant amount. And here it is, 1.7 million. So Douglas County has a task force officer assigned to DEA, and as does Denver Police Department, Aurora, Arapahoe, all the sheriffs. They have a task force we have a task force officer program. And their deputies and officers have the same access like our agents do when they sit in our office to our databases, intelligence. And so within hours, if not minutes, because word of this seizure had traveled within the law enforcement community, we were able to identify that this seizure was associated with a long-term case that DEA, CBI, Sheriff's Department, Douglas County had been working for more than a year. And so in April of this year, there was a takedown that had not only just happened here in Colorado, but also elsewhere in the country, where one of the individuals associated with the storage locker was apprehended and is currently in custody, only corroborating the fact that he couldn't go and then pay his bills, and it went to auction. So again, the person who called the sheriff's office did the right thing, recognized it, stepped back, let the sheriff's office take it. And because he could have abandoned it, he could have, that's a lot of dope to flush down a toilet, but he could have done a lot of other things with the dope than call law enforcement. And so
how many lives do you think you saved by getting 1.7 million
thousands,
pills?
Hundreds of thousands. The laboratory testing for DEA, we do regular testing over the years, and at its height, it's gone up to 7 of every 10 pills contains a lethal dose, down to 3 or 4. So the bottom line is you don't know what is inside one of those pills. And so, I was still getting questions yesterday at the press conference from some of the media. I know you were in our Citizens Academy, but there's still folks out there in the media and in the public who don't really know how bad fentanyl is, which is the crazy part. 2 milligrams, the amount that can fit on the tip of a pencil is considered a lethal dose. I say it all the time. Stefan says it all the time. But we still end up finding people that are unaware of this. And so I think this type of a record seizure, hey, we're on here today talking about it. The crazy part is last week, remember, Stefan, we were talking at the end of the week, we had another seizure here in Colorado in excess of 500,000 pills. That's not making the news. What made the news is a record-breaking seizure. And so I think that's the part of getting on here to continue to talk about with folks is one pill can kill, but we say one conversation can save. And so you have people listening today who this might be their first time hearing about fentanyl. You and Bill have covered it over the years, but we got to continue to spread the word.
This is David Oleski. He's the special agent in charge for DEA's Rocky Mountain Field Division. David, you mentioned that this was a record amount, but you had also seized 500,000 previous. I think you had said yesterday during the press conference that this was a record year with regards to seizure of fentanyl pills. Why is that happening? It seems like we've gone really far to try to notify the public of the problems with fentanyl, And it seems like the president is taking the border very seriously and trying to, stop
Absolutely.
the flow there. But we still have record amounts coming in. What is happening? Is it the nature of Denver being a major intersection with I-70 and I-25? Is it fentanyl is being consumed in Colorado so much? Is it they're finding new ways to get across the border? Is it kind of a combination of all of it?
Combination of everything, but what I would attribute it to is that when you hear record seizures of fentanyl, record seizures of methamphetamine, the common denominator between those two drugs is that these are synthetic drugs. So you end up having this limitless supply of precursor chemicals coming out of China, going into Mexico, and this is not the days of Walter White in Breaking Bad making it in a little RV. You're talking about super labs in Mexico that are producing these millions and millions of pill quantities. We did the demonstration. My buddy James broke out the fentanyl press or a pill press and was showing the public of just how easy it is to manufacture these pills. One of the things probably didn't get as much attention as the 1.7 million pills, which is very easy to see. I think when you see 1.7 million pills laid out, it's very easy as I don't know if to say consumer, just visibly seeing a dosage unit of a pill, right? We're used to seeing an aspirin and say, okay, one aspirin is good, and try to equate or a vitamin. Well, what was also sitting on the table was 12 kilograms of fentanyl powder. And that gets a little bit less attention because these bricks are sitting over there. Like, oh, okay, but wow, my eyes are attracted to the 1.7 million pills. But each of those kilograms of fentanyl powder can yield upwards, if it's a pure kilo, up to 500,000 pills per. So if you look at that, in Mexico, one of those bricks goes for $8,000. When it goes into the production and they put it in the pill press, you're talking less than 1 penny to manufacture one of those pills. So that's what a life is worth to, the cartels, barely anything. But when they're trafficking it here, whether it's in the state of Colorado, you're looking at $1 per pill if you're selling 1,000 pill quantities. But like on the streets of Denver, anywhere in the neighborhoods or online, you could sell those pills for $4 or $5 each, $10 each if you're selling them individually. Our region also, our division also covers Montana. We have 7 Indian reservations in the state of Montana. A fentanyl pill up there, do you know how much that goes for, Jeff? You remember how much it was?
No.
It's going for $40 to $60 a pill.
Wow.
And so when you're looking at this, certainly the cartel didn't just wash their hands of this and say, we just lost it. But in part, it's the cost of doing business. The other reason probably why it's sat there so long in the storage locker is the cartels are so compartmentalized. So the folks that handle the money are not necessarily going to be crossing over to the folks who handle the drugs. The folks who handle the drugs here in the metro area are not maybe going to always know the courier who's coming up from Mexico. And so when we're able to really target the networks and take off a cell like this, it can make an impact for such a long time that probably the cartel folks did not. I don't think they knew where the storage locker was. We had the guy in custody since April. And so when you're so compartmentalized on the part of the cartels, there's disadvantages too.
Yeah, that was a question that Patrick Neville raised on my X account was, is there just so much fentanyl out there that they go, 1.7, they just write it off as a loss? Possibly, but then you also said they're so compartmentalized that the right hand may not know what the left hand was doing, so those just sat there until they got seized. That's David Oleski, Special Agent in charge for DEA's Rocky Mountain Field Division. I guess I'm still a little confused as to, we've seen the president take on these cartels, shut down the border, so how are we still dealing with record fentanyl coming through? It's not being manufactured here, so they're just finding other ways. I mean, how are they getting it through the border with this increased enforcement that's taking place, I guess?
Yeah, as much as your imagination can grow and think of ways for them to do it, just realize they only have to be successful one of every 3-4 times of getting a load through the border, at the cost of the product. And so that's it. But we do have, I think, the increase in border security in terms of the human capital of the cartels. We're apprehending these. That's something that is not limitless, for them. And so when we take off, just like in this case, the one courier or the cell, it does take a while for them to replenish. And I'll say, I'm so proud of our men and women at DEA. You can go to our partners who were there yesterday from CBI, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, HSI, IRS, ATF. it's all hands on deck. And so it's been really impressive for me to watch the collaborative nature of what everyone is doing here, not only in state of Colorado, the country, to tackle this. And what I'll say is, you go back to the start of this administration, day one, something I hadn't seen in my 25 years with DEA was the president said, wrote an executive order, and he didn't call for the disruption of the cartels. He didn't say we're going to work on slowing the flow of drugs. He asked for a total review of the U.S. government's counter-narcotics strategy and intelligence strategy focused on drug trafficking, ultimately calling for the elimination of the cartels. And that was in the executive order. And I remember on day one saying, well, that's pretty good as a DEA agent, of saying, wow, the president's serious about this. And not, if it wasn't weeks later, it was days later, Attorney General Bondi issued a similar memorandum to the Department of Justice saying we're going to use all the resources that we have in the toolbox to go after the cartels. And then right after that, you had the foreign terrorist designations. And
can you tell us how that changes things, or our listeners, how designating the cartels as a foreign terrorist organization changes things?
So, I think number one, what I'll say is I remember early on when that was first designated, what the cartels thought was certainly that they thought, wow, now we're going to be subject to the same things that Al-Qaeda and the other Middle Eastern type of extremist terrorism organizations were doing. And they certainly felt the pressure, I think. I just remember talking to my colleagues down in Mexico were saying, man, the word on the street is just, wow, this is something to be, this is a change in the landscape of narcotics enforcement, 100%. And so there's a lot of things in terms of the financial side of cases where if you end up have somebody who's listed as a foreign terrorist, a member of a foreign terrorist organization, that you can do in the banking community, the financial sector to go after. There's a lot of other things that folks, honestly, to be aware of in the, let's say, oil community or in the business community. If you're trying to operate in Mexico, in some of these parts of the country, you have to pay the equivalent of extortion fees to the cartels to operate businesses. So there's a lot of other things that come in that we are taking as a U.S. government, an all hands-on-deck approach. You've mentioned it, Jeff. The border security is definitely one of the strongest it's ever been. But then you also go through how the administration is using tariffs, negotiations in terms of the precursor chemical topic. To hear that being talked about at the administration about China and fentanyl is being discussed and the loss of American lives, I think those are the different things that you really didn't historically see being talked about. I would always say, the war on drugs is not working, right? I hate even mentioning it on the air because who knows how many text messages you're going to get.
They all know where I stand at this point.
Well, but my point is not the war in the sense of, right, what we're seeing with the go fast boats in South America. But my point is that it ebbs and flows over the course of time of different administrations and their priorities, right? And so whether it's border security, whether it's immigration, whether it's tough on drug traffickers and holding them accountable and sentencing. And listen, it also is substance abuse and recovery and making sure we have treatment programs. It's not something that we're just going to arrest our way out of it. Moments like yesterday, I know, to try to draw the parallel of having a citizen call in and report this, it takes the community, it takes your listeners out there to share the message that as our men, they're out there today, right, Stephan? Our folks are out there. One of our colleagues, Jim, was just calling me on an operation that's happening right now in Denver. We're going to do the enforcement piece, hold those accountable. But we need folks who are out there. It doesn't matter if you're in the education world, the public health world, to continue to message the dangers of these drugs. And I know Stephan, that's how we met. Stephan's a huge advocate in terms of messaging on this topic.
Yeah, I think also somebody listening this morning, it's getting national news now, which we kind of anticipated, obviously, the numbers, right? When the national folks do this story, it's 1.7 million pills seized in Denver. For those of us, we're hyper-local. I know it from working here, right? That's what we love about talk radio. There's got to be somebody out there listening right now going, Highlands Ranch? Highlands freaking Ranch. I lived there, I lived there for almost 20 years. Yeah. This was about 2 miles as the crow flies from where I raised my kids, where we went to the Super Target, where we went to King Supers, where we went to Northridge Rec Center, all of those things. if this does not show you that there is not just one bad corner in downtown Denver, or pick another community you think is worse than where you live. I know just personally from living there, when we hear about, the storage wars angle, I mean, Dave and I talked about it. Everybody in our office talked about it. This is clearly going to get headlines because of that storage wars type angle. But then when you really look at it, what 1.7 million, the fentanyl powder equivalent to possibly yield another 6 million pills. This is in a very affluent area of the Denver metro area and in Colorado. So I guess my bottom line is, it's one of the cliches. If it can happen there, it can happen anywhere. And I think now, in the weeks and months to follow, let's give a shout out to the Douglas County schools. Let us come as DEA and let us tell your classroom, your community group, your Kiwanis Club, your Rotary, that this is here, and this should be a wake-up call for everybody in Colorado.
Yeah. Big time. It's here. Big time. And a big wake-up call. One of the questions I saw pop up yesterday on X, and we got it here, you guys said it was counterfeit pills, but does that mean that there wasn't fentanyl in it? No. Or help people understand the term counterfeit.
Sure. I think we use the word counterfeit because if somebody's looking out there in the public and they look at this pill, they're not going to be able to tell the difference between a real Oxycontin pill that's coming from the pharmacy and one manufactured by the cartels in Mexico. And so we use the word counterfeit to say it's not a real pill from a pharmaceutical industry. It's one from Mexico, and there's none of that other stuff that the pharmacies put in it. What is in it is the synthetic opiate fentanyl, which is inside. And so that's the reason we use the term counterfeit for how it's presented, but it's definitely all fentanyl inside.
Did you get a good look at, I don't know how close you got, Jeff, yesterday?
I was a little nervous, David.
Well, you should. We had Narcan on hand just in case some dumb reporter, not you, comes and touches it. But if you noticed, if you looked in, and we've put it on our social media, and I urge all of you friends listening, please follow us on our X account. Even though I understand it's down maybe right now, entirely the network, but follow us, DEA, Rocky Mountain, DIV. You can just type it in. But each of those pills, they're designed to look like what we call an M30 or a blue. And you saw yesterday in the demonstration, and if you saw any of the TV coverage yesterday, you can see just how easy and what did Mr. Stroop, our assistant special agent in charge who did the demonstration, almost 5,000 pills an hour. Yeah. That one machine.
Yeah.
You saw it. It was 4 feet from you.
Yep.
And just in our office there, if you see he was holding the pills in his hands, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between that pill and the one right from your local pharmacy.
Yeah.
Because the die casts that are in there make the same impressions on the pills. And it's the same whether it's for, as we said, a counterfeit fentanyl pill or cartels or even manufacturing counterfeit Adderall pills. All it is the change of a color dye. And in the Adderall pills, while you could still have fentanyl in those containing methamphetamine. And so that's why we have to continue to message this out there because, as you're saying, of just, hey, Highlands Ranch, really? Well, the thing is you don't have to go to some of the more high crime areas to acquire these drugs. Sadly, me and Steph and yourself, Jeff, have met parents who've lost their kids to a drug overdose, or we could say poisoning, because why? They could sit in the comfort of their home in Highlands Ranch and Parker, go on their cell phone device, go on TikTok, Snapchat, and have these pills delivered right to the front door of their home. And I think it gives a false sense of security for a parent. Say, we live in this great neighborhood. We don't have drugs in our school district. But then and I say, well, what are you doing different there? Because across the country, we're still losing hundreds of thousands of American lives over the last few years. And so no one is immune. And I've done presentations where it's not one pill can kill, it's did kill. And if you look at the images of young kids, doesn't matter what race they are, economic class, their education levels. I always say the theater kid or the high school varsity football player, or even adults. Folks suffer from substance abuse, pain. They try to seek an alternative, kind of pain remedy. But this is not the thing to turn to.
One of the frustrating things, I will say, part of DEA's messaging, we want to get out in schools. And I'm not just saying this is just in our division, which is Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Montana. But I know in talking with colleagues, we sometimes have received from school districts. I'm not going to focus on any particular state or particular district, but we have heard this messaging. Thank you so much for what you all do, but we don't have an issue here. So thanks. That is a potential deadly mistake.
I agree. Bill, you had a question?
Yeah, I wanted to circle back with David Oleski, the special agent in charge for DEA Rocky Mountain region, talking about how they're manufacturing these pills, because in the demonstration yesterday, they brought out a pill press, and I think it's really important for the audience to hear again that the drug dealers and the cartels are using the same manufacturing presses that the major pill companies are using, so they look the same. So it's no longer an issue of going out there on the street and going, well, this doesn't look like what I normally get from the pharmacist, or this doesn't look like what I saw online when I looked at WebMD or whatever. They're gonna look the same because they're using the same machines. So they're going to break that barrier of uncertainty with you if you're trying to buy pills on the black market, because certainly, look, they have the same stamps on them. They came out of the same pill press. Of course you can trust these. Why wouldn't you? They look just like the other ones you've been doing. I think that's really important to go back to, the fact that they are using the actual presses that the major manufacturers are using to make sure they look the same. They are trying to make them look the same on purpose.
You explained it perfectly, Bill. That's exactly the case. And we at DEA are focused not just on the end product here in the U.S. of the pills and the powder, but also going after the flow of illicit chemicals out of China, going after the online businesses, whether on the open web or the dark web, who traffic the pills, and container loads out of China into Mexico, where then they're in these super labs with those pill presses. And while the one we had in our office might produce 4,000 to 5,000 an hour, they have ones even bigger than that. And so we focus on not just the end product, but also the chemical supply and the trafficking or the movement of those pills. Now, most of the time, those pills are in Mexico. But last year, remember, Stefan, where were we? Where we ended up getting 6-7 pills with our
6 to 7 pill presses. From a middle class normal neighborhood in the heart of Aurora.
Yeah, we were out there with the Denver Police Department and their Clan Lab team, Aurora Police Department, our Clan Lab team, and there were 6-7 pill presses in the home, and we had to cordon off the whole block. I remember that.
Children were present. There were 4 or 5 children
in the home
who tested positive for fentanyl, but they did not succumb to fentanyl. Part of the reason is because sadly, their bodies were used to the exposure.
So they were living in the house?
Correct.
Oh, my goodness. Bill, you had another one?
Yeah, I wanted to. Now, Stefan will know the name. David Oleski may not, but Artis called in, her phone has dropped a couple of times, and she was curious about the storage unit, and she was talking about drug enforcement dogs. Would that have been of any help? She does say, yeah, it's fairly unreasonable to be asking DEA to go around to every single storage facility and walk through with the drug dogs. But in a situation in this specific storage facility, would a drug dog have been able to smell the pills, and would they have triggered?
I'd say potentially.
Yeah,
definitely. What's her call? What's the caller's name?
Artis.
She's got.
Stefan knows her well. She's fantastic.
Hello, Artis.
She's such a great woman. Yes.
Let's just say that question and her question has definitely been a topic of conversation in the office this week, especially. So we definitely have seen storage lockers come up in cases throughout the course of time, and a lot recently. And again, it just goes to show on how the cartels compartmentalize. They realize we can more easily identify them if we're doing surveillance and following them to their home or where they reside. But going into a storage locker definitely presents challenges in and of itself.
I would say, sorry to interrupt, Dave. If this does not show you, though, that, man, maybe they really don't know what's in these storage units when they put them up for auction, right? I mean, either the storage facility said, we know what's in it, and this is going to be the winner's problem, or they had no clue. They just, go about, and I think it's the latter.
Yeah.
They go about this process, and you imagine the guy, I know you guys started off the top of the hour with talking about it, but just imagine that person who had the winning bid. And we saw on the body cam the reaction from the sheriff's deputies.
Yeah.
But imagine if dude that won it had some kind of body cam on him. I couldn't have imagined, to Dave's point, thinking you're going to get a baseball card worth $4 million or, antiques, and then you get this. And Bill, I heard you say something earlier this morning, right when you guys went on the air, about this was not packed to the rafters.
Yeah, that was surprising.
There were just these storage bins or tubs worth, not worth, but the quantity, it's really not that much.
Yeah, I mean, if you had won it and opened it up, if I was bidding on like Storage Wars and I opened up, the first thing would be, oh, this isn't good, because I've got several tubs and then these other things over here, and most of it was
Bill thought
empty.
that he was getting his retirement package.
Exactly.
Instead, he got shut out.
They kind of
exactly
open
it.
the garage doors, let you look quickly, and then they shut it, and you got to bid on it or something like that. I've watched enough Storage Wars, but you're right. It wasn't packed to the.
And that's scary. That is scary because they could have. In some ways, they could have stored this stuff in a large walk-in closet. Really not large. On the average walk-in closet, they could have stacked the stuff inside. That's the scary thing, is it is the 6th largest seizure of drugs in our nation's history, and it didn't take up a full storage locker. And it's the small ones, not the big ones you have to pay the extra for. This is the standard thing that looks like the size of, like 2/3 of a studio apartment. And there was so much empty space.
Question earlier of just, why so much is still coming in with a tighter border? Well, look how the size of that, it's not that much if you're hiding that in a tractor trailer. I don't know, Stefan, if we should put out a little teaser, but we have some more to come on some creative stuff this week that's been going on and how creative the cartels are. So we can't get into it too much.
I so want to talk about it.
If you want to see Stephen Tubbs just light up, it's the idea that.
Listen, we're kicking ass and taking names, okay?
This guy gets to be on the other side of the equation right now. He gets to know the information us in the media
But
don't
here's the
quite
deal.
yet.
I've said this to you. I've said this to Dave. I could not be more proud of the efforts. And in this particular case, it shows the example of the cooperation.
Yeah.
From a media side, which was my entire life, I always heard our federal partners and all. I'm like, I hate that soundbite, but now I see it. And it's true. We've got federal partners and local and state partners. We're making a dent. Are we ever going to solve it? Is it ever going to completely go away? And this is going to be in the history books? Sadly, no. We've got an addiction problem in our country, but I know that I could not be more proud. And to Dave's point, it's going to be a busy next 48 hours.
Yeah.
Excited. We're going to continue this conversation, so stick around. You're not going to want to miss it. Live in studio with us, David Oleski, Special Agent in Charge for the DEA's Rocky Mountain Field Division, along with Stephen Tubbs. You know the name and you know the voice. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Dude, I love these guys, man.
Oh, yeah.
The Drug Enforcement Administration. Here's where I go on this, guys. I get really passionate about it because, look, we spent between $6 and $8 trillion fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq for what was a terrible injustice on 9/11. 3,000 Americans died. Okay, we're losing 100,000 Americans a year to fentanyl. The cartels know what they're doing. They're profiting off the death of Americans. I'm so grateful the president has designated them terrorist organizations. I'm so grateful that he's empowered the DEA to go after these guys. I am sick and tired of losing Americans to the greed of these cartels, and they're fighting back and they're putting their lives on the line to save Americans. Honestly, I think you guys are heroes. I really do. David, I'm grateful to have you here. Grateful to see all the guys yesterday. It was so fun to see Douglas County deputies, to see Sheriff Weekly, to see everybody come together.
Yeah. That's what's one thing that's so, for me, is both a blessing to be in the position, to see the hard work day and day from not only our own folks, but just, when it's not just, maybe Stefan who's new to this or yourself, our own agents, to see, I can go through Chad and Shelby and Bob and our agents who are working this case for the last year. Certainly, yes, it's the story on the citizen who reported it gets the credit for that. But there was so much work that went into it to hold that person accountable and put the person in jail who was tied to the storage locker back in April. And those partnerships that around this Denver metro area, the state of Colorado, is a fun part to be around in this times of just, as you said, the support from the administration. Some of your colleagues, Jeff, who were just in here Saturday, were sharing that they had lost some friends to fentanyl. And so to feel the support from the community in this area, to see the passion in our own agents and intel analysts working this is very rewarding.
Absolutely. Let's go. Speaking of the buyer, let's go to the phone lines. There's a question regarding the buyer. Tom Littleton. Good morning, Tom. You're on with Jeff and Bill and David Oleski and Stephen Tubbs.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was just wondering, in the course of human events, how do you, what does it look like? I mean, how did this guy know it might be something fishy?
Yeah. So absolutely. I mean, when you look...
like you could just disguise it if it's just powder. I don't know, throw an open box of Calcon bath powder in there.
It's a good question, obviously, because we're on radio and I'm not physically describing. I don't think since I've been on what the fentanyl pills look like. But honestly, it's a blue pill. It looks just like a legitimate pharmaceutical pill you'd get, if it prescribed via your doctor. The ones that we're talking about over and over again in terms of fentanyl, they're the blue M30 pills. They actually have the M and the 30 pressed into them. And so what I say is, how do you end up knowing? Well, in this case for the guy, I'm sure even if it was an aspirin type pill, to have hundreds of thousands of these things
also
sitting
the way
there,
that it's packaged.
And the way it's packaged, right. Certainly. If you looked at this, what was interesting in the packages, I had gotten some questions afterwards yesterday. Jeff, remember there was like 1,000 pill packages at the lowest level of pills, and that's called in the narco world a boat. And if you have 10,000 pills in terminology, that's called a yacht. And so that's basically how it's packaged. And if you actually get to see for your audience the photos, you'll see that that's how these packages come up from Mexico, ready to be distributed right here on the streets of Colorado. And so when our agents go out, whether with informants or undercover agents, we'll typically try to buy 1,000 pills at a time, and it'll come in just one of those little bundles. And right here on the streets of, let's say, Aurora, Denver, we're buying those quantity of pills for anywhere from 80 cents a pill to $1.25 a pill if you're buying it in 1,000 pill quantities. And so it's Yeah, so profitable for them. But to your caller's question is definitely if you see something like that, don't touch it. Call the experts to handle it.
Yeah. I'm sure Sheriff Weekly would say the same thing. When in doubt, just call.
Yeah.
The sheriff will be happy to come by and take a look. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
If the streets of Colorado and our nation feel a little bit safer, it's because the good people at the Drug Enforcement Administration, the sheriff of Douglas County, CBI, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, seized a record 1.7 million counterfeit counterfeit fentanyl pills. The sixth largest U.S. pill seizure and the record here in Colorado. Big day yesterday as they made this announcement. David Oleski joins us live in studio now. He's the special agent in charge for the DEA's Rocky Mountain Field Division. Means he's the head honcho here in the Rocky Mountain Field area. But big day yesterday. Let's talk fentanyl numbers nationally. How do they look this last year or two?
Well, sure. If we're going to go just drug overdose deaths over the last few years, if you go to 2022, 2023, as a nation, we were losing more than 110,000 American lives due to not just fentanyl, but drugs as a whole, the majority of that fentanyl. And I always struggle on how to phrase this. Look, the numbers are getting better, but it's not a celebratory number in terms of the number of deaths when that's what we're talking about. But for the most recent 12-month period ending April of 25, it was still 73,690. So 25,000 less. I hate talking about lives in those terms, but it does show that things have turned a little bit. And even at the state level, numbers have leveled off and gone down a little bit. But here, right in the city of Denver, Denver County, very sadly, we're looking at a record year. We work very closely at Denver Police Department has for the last few years stood up a fentanyl response team. And I have to recognize those folks who do that job because they are responding and meeting families in their worst possible moments, responding to a drug overdose and poisoning. And they are on pace for way more than 400 drug-related deaths this year.
Any sense as to why you think that's happening?
Well, definitely when it comes in the state, obviously Denver's the biggest in terms of population. Yeah. You look at that as where the cartels are focused. Some of our larger cases are there. And listen, the city of Denver does. They have great support programs for the most vulnerable communities, folks who need support, whether it's financial, housing, or whatever. And so you have a vulnerable community, folks who suffer from substance abuse, residing there. And when you look at the numbers of those 400 deaths, what was interesting is I believe the numbers was only 24 or 25 were fentanyl-only deaths. So fentanyl was in, let's say, the majority of the toxicology reports, but there's all of these other drugs that are still killing the lives there.
Well, that's David Oleski, special agent in charge for DEA's Rocky Mountain Field Division. Stefan, we've got to jump here.
We are America's division. DEA.gov/1pill.
True American heroes. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is KNUS.